Are you wondering what are the main language milestones to look out for when your child is turning 2? Or maybe they've already turned 2 and your child is between the ages of 2 and 2.5. So I'm going to answer this question for you, and I'm going to answer with 3 main milestones. And each of the milestones are going to be in one domain or area of language. So the first area of language that you want to look out for is expressive language, or what the child says. The second is social language, or how the child is interacting. And the third is receptive language, or what the child is hearing and understanding. So these are the 3 main milestones to look out for. Hi, my name is Amini. I'm a speech and language pathologist with several years of experience in schools and in clinics. And right now I have my own private practice in the Bay Area. So I have plenty of experience working with children around the age of 2. And I know the 3 things to look out for when a child is turning 2. The first one is kind of a combined milestone. So it's the number of words and combining words. So as a child is approaching 2 years old, around 18 months, they should typically know and be saying 50 words. So at 18 months, if you look up any sort of a milestone chart, you'll see that a child should be saying around 50 distinct words. So at 2, that's definitely the case. 50 words is a good milestone to look out for. In addition, right around the time that a kid starts to say 50 distinct words is a time when the child will start to combine at least some of those 50 words into phrases. So for example, combining with in and on, or combining with the name of a color, or combining with small, little, or big, are things that you will often hear. So let me give you an example. So for example, maybe at 1, a child will just say color, right? So at 2, maybe they're going to say something like purple dot. That's a 2-word phrase. Or maybe at 1, a child would just say car, but at 2, they're going to say blue car. Or maybe they would just say on when you're putting the car on a ramp, but at 2, a child would say car on, or on ramp. Or maybe they would just say car, but now a child will say something like little car, or tiny car, or small car. So again, 50 distinct words. Some of them obviously will involve prepositions and adjectives so that they can be combined with nouns to make phrases. So that's something I would definitely look out for. In terms of how frequently the child should be using 2-word phrases, it doesn't have to be all the time yet, especially when a child first turns 2. They're just starting to learn how to put 2 words together. So maybe they'll be starting to say things like mama up. That is technically 2 distinct words, but they're kind of using them together. So usually what I'll see is a child will start using 2-word phrases just once in a while. Then as they get to 2.5, they will use them more. And as they get to 2 years, 7 months, 8 months, they will use those phrases a lot more. So like with all milestones, there's obviously a little bit of wiggle room. Different children develop differently. There is no rule that you have to be doing something at a certain age, but that is something that I would look for, is that 2-word phrases. And if you're not reaching that 2-word phrase milestone, it's definitely worth it to speak to a speech therapist, to mention this to your pediatrician. And if you feel like this continues to be a problem as the months go by, reach out to a professional nearby who can help you. So that's our expressive language milestone. That was our 2-word phrases. Now we're going to be talking about our receptive language milestone, and that is following 2-step directions. So normally with 2-step directions as a speech therapist, what I do is I check for this in play, but you can also check for it in daily routines. So one really common one that I look for is, say you have a toy with cake, right? So maybe you'll tell your child to cut and then eat, or maybe take off the candle and then eat. So first you're going to demo, let's take off and then eat, or maybe cut and then eat. What I would look for after is whether the child follows the same direction. So you could give the child the cake and say, your turn. Can we cut and eat? Cut is the first step. Eat is the second step, and see if your child follows. Normally with two-step directions, you'd want them to follow at least with a little bit prompting, at least 50% of the time. Obviously, we all know terrible twos are not the most compliant children, but at least some of the time they should be able to follow two-step directions. Another two-step direction that's really easy to make your child follow, and that's also really fun, going back to our ramp, is putting a car on the ramp. So down maybe would be the first one. And as the car goes down the ramp, maybe catch is the second step. So down and catch, cut, and eat are ones that I check for a lot. But of course, you can look for any activity that involves two steps in your daily routines and see if your child will copy you. So for example, first we put socks on, then we put shoes on. Your turn. Let's put socks on and shoes on. Does your child reach for the socks or the shoes, showing that they understand that this is a two-step process? So that's the second thing to look out for. The third thing to look out for is whether or not your child is starting to take turns. I say starting because, again, 2-year-olds are not the best at sharing, and that's completely normal. But they should be able to tolerate one other person playing with the toy that they're playing with, especially a familiar person and somebody who's doing it gently, like not grabbing things from them. And they should be able to do it at least semi-interactively. So normally you'll see kids at this age playing next to each other. So here's one child, here's another child, and they're both doing their own thing. But they should be starting once in a while to take turns. So some of the things that I look for the most are, say you guys are using dot markers together. I love using dot markers. These are great with toddlers. They're usually a great hit. Maybe your child is putting a dot on a paper. So your child puts one dot, and then you can say my turn, and then you can take another dot and then put it on the paper and see if your child will tolerate that. Are they okay with taking the turn with you at least once in a while? So maybe out of 3 times that they do the dot, do they allow you at least one time to put the dot? Another thing that I look for is, say you're doing a toy train together and you're putting tracks on, do they help you put the tracks on, or do they let you help them put the tracks on? So maybe they put one track on, you put one track on, they put a couple tracks on, you put a couple tracks on. That is taking turns. That is a social language milestone. The last one that's pretty advanced, but I have seen some 2-year-olds do it, is matching. So you might be able to find some matching games like this farmyard heads and tails game. This one, if your child is able to take turns at least a little bit with flipping the cards and looking for matches, that's a good sign that they're well on their way to being able to take turns when they get to preschool. So those are our 3 milestones to look up for. So again, we had 1 expressive language milestone, 2 word phrases. We had 1 social language milestone, taking turns. And we also had 2-step directions. And I showed you what that looks like as well. So again, with milestones, don't stress too much and think something's wrong if your child is not meeting it immediately as soon as they turn 2. But at the same time, milestones are hints, and you should take that into account. And if you're concerned, see a speech therapist or a pediatrician as soon as possible. So I will have future videos that talk a little bit more about how you can help the child achieve each of these milestones. So please check out my channel and check out some of those videos because they will be helpful. And some other resources that you can check out, which I have links for at the bottom, are our mailing list. So you can subscribe to our mailing list to get a free tip every month themed to the month or the season on how you can help your toddler to talk more. There's also links to our ebooks, and there's also links to our courses. Finally, some of the fun toys that I've used in this video, I've also linked so you can purchase those if you would like. And don't forget to subscribe if you like this tip. I'm hoping to post at least 1 tip a week of little things that you could do to help your child, or little tidbits of knowledge that I feel would be helpful. Your subscription really helps me in terms of knowing what my audience wants, knowing what kinds of videos you watch. That really will help me to target a little more. Finally, if you want to see a video on a particular topic, go ahead and write it in the comment section. If I get recurring questions for the same topic, I might do a video on it. So that's something that I'm hoping to do in the future as well. So I hope this tip helped you, and happy talking.